Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new IGTV episode. Cassandra with you here. You can learn more about me at cassandravon.com. You can also check out the 27 plus books I've written on Amazon at overcomingfearbooks.com. So today, I want to ask you a question. Did you give too much in a relationship? Did you give too much in a relationship? Now, when I ask that question, I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about friendships, work relationships, family relationships, your neighbors, your children. Have you given too much in a relationship? Because let me give you a quote and then we're going to go a little bit deeper. Never put them first if you always come last. Never give your all if you only get half. Never put them first if you always come last. Never give your all if you only get half. So, given that context, I'm going to ask you again. Have you given too much in a relationship? Are you hustling for your worthiness at work? Are you being everything to everybody in your family, and yet when you have a weak moment, which rarely happens because you are the backbone of your family, when you call somebody because you need a word of encouragement or support, is nobody there for you, and yet you keep giving your all? Did you give too much in a relationship? Because the reality is there are going to be a lot of people who say, well, what you're talking about, this tit for tat thing, it's not unconditional love. And, I believe in unconditional love. And even if other people don't show up for me, I am this kind of a person. And so I'm going to give my all to them, even if they never give their all to me. I'm going to ask you a question. If that's how you feel about it, what are you teaching people about how they get to treat you when you are bending backwards over for them? And the one moment that you need them, maybe twice a year, they are choosing not to be there for you. What are you teaching them about how you're going to be treated, about how you should be treated? What are you teaching them? Because you can tell me this integrity, character, I don't care how other people show up, bullshit, all you want. But here's what I'm going to say to you. With everything that you tolerate, with everything that you accept, and with everything you allow people to do in your life, you are teaching them that it's okay to treat you that way. And to counter all of that, you could be giving your all to them, but if they're only giving you half, if they are your top priority, but you are their last priority, I promise you there's resentment in the way you give. There's resentment in the way you give, which means you're bringing negative energy to the table anyway. So let me ask you the question again. Did you give too much in a relationship? And what are you going to do now to change that dynamic? Let me give you a few steps. If you feel like, oh, wow, I'm teaching people that I come last, I need to fix that. Number one, you need to own the fact that you taught them that you come last. They didn't do this to you. You allowed it, you tolerated it, and by doing so, you taught them how to treat you. First thing I do is own it. Like my book, own it. The one thing that will change everything in your life. I wrote a book called Own It for that reason. Number one thing you could do to change this whole dynamic of people using and abusing you because you give so much and they give so little. Own the fact that you created this. Second thing you got to do, step back and reevaluate your boundaries and reevaluate what you're giving and really look at each of those relationships, whether it's at work, at home, with friends, with family, and say, is this really working out for the both of us? Is what I'm getting worth what I'm giving? And do I really feel good about myself when I give this way, but I only get that way? Do I really feel good about it? And really reevaluate both the boundaries and the dynamics in the relationship. Third thing you got to do, and people avoid this at all costs, have a conversation with that person. You need to have a conversation where you say, you know what? And listen, this is not a conversation where you go, you did this to me. Because let's go back to step number one, own it. They didn't do it to you. You did it to you. When you have the conversation, you have to say to the person, I've really been thinking about the way that our relationship has gone. And I feel like I give and give and give. And this is how I feel, just so you know. I'm telling you my perspective here. I feel like I give and give and give. And the one or two times a year that I really need your support, you're not there for me. And I want to talk about that because I don't know that I can keep doing what I'm doing in this connection with you and keep getting what I'm getting. I don't know that that serves either of us. So we need to talk about it. And Here's the fourth thing. This is the reason why people don't like to have the conversation. Then you have to decide based on the feedback you get from them, whether you're actually going to continue with this dynamic or not. Because some people are like, I don't know why you're bothered. Like, that's your issue. I'm going to keep being me, which means I'm going to keep taking from you. Then you got to drop them like it's hot. So most people avoid all of those steps because they don't want to get to the conversation, which feels like a confrontation. And they don't want to get to the truth of what they knew they needed to do before they ever had the conversation. Some people will use you as long as you let them. And you know in your heart of hearts if you need to drop them like it's hot. And most people don't want to have the conversation because then it's in their face that it is time to make the decision that they knew they needed to make before the conversation. So what am I saying at the end of the day? If you're giving too much in a relationship, you have to really look at what it is actually costing you to do that. And you have to decide if that is a price you're willing to pay. And if it is not a price you're willing to pay, you have to change the dynamic. Now, that might mean having a conversation, changing boundaries. That might also mean letting that person go. And you need to do whatever you need to do to live the life that you want and to be treated the way you want. And there are billions of people on the planet. So don't tell me that if you lose this person or that person, they cannot be replaced. Everyone, with the exception of certain family members, is pretty replaceable. You can find that same kind of love, that same kind of devotion, billions of people on the planet. Now, mom and dad, kind of different. Siblings, kind of different. But everybody else, pretty replaceable. So don't avoid having the conversation in your own head because you're afraid of losing somebody out of fear that you'll never have anybody else. There will always be somebody else. Always. So ask the question. Give yourself the answer. Take the steps.